Happy birthday to me! Woo! Oh my god, there goes the cake. Oh shit. Cake is being destroyed right now. Alright. So, I just stuffed my face full of cake.
I'll read the intro. So, with the top 25 this week, we have...
That's good cake.
You know who else is good? Gonzaga. They're really good at basketball. Gonzaga ranked number 1. Other mid-majors in the polls include Loyola Chicago at 21 and San Diego State University at 22. So we got Loyola Chicago and we got the Aztecs. Getting votes, we have Belmont, we have Drake, we have BYU, which is Brigham Young University. We have Boise State University, we have Toledo, we have Winthrop, we have UC Santa Barbara. Wow.
Yeah, back up in the votes.
Okay, and we got Western Kentucky Hilltoppers.
Is also back up in the votes. Yeah. So I just had my birthday last Saturday. Finally, since I became a Gonzaga fan, I have not only celebrated my birthday, but also my birthday celebration day with the Gonzaga win, and I am super happy about that. Since I become a Gonzaga fan, they have lost in some sort of combination of that. But the streak is broken. I am happy that Gonzaga finally won. This week, they got an extra number 1 place vote, so happy birthday to me.
I'm going to have a talk with the Gonzaga admissions groups.
There's no joke. You can actually look back on it. Since I was born in 1995, Gonzaga was on a 5-game win streak on February 20th. As soon as I became a freshman, so 2013-14, 2014, they lost on my birthday.
I remember.
And then 2 seasons later, they lost on my birthday again.
I remember.
And then last year, they beat San Francisco on my birthday, which was a Thursday night. And then we went to go out to celebrate on Saturday. They lost to BYU last year on Saturday, on the day we were celebrating my birthday.
We lost at BYU last year?
Yeah.
I don't remember that because I was there.
It might have been at home then. But we lost to BYU.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. There's a stupid ass record on February 20th where Gonzaga, as soon as I become a fan of Gonzaga, is currently now 2-2, but I consider 2-3 because they lost to BYU. But anyways, we're going to get into that. We're going to be happy because I finally got a victory against San Diego. I don't care what you supposed NCAA fans consider a quality win within WCC. I don't care. We freaking won on my birthday. But we're going to get into our topic right now.
Not only did we win, we gave up 69 points.
True. It was a very nice victory. And we also got 100 points.
Hundo!
So it was both nice on both ends. For this week, who is on the bubble for mid-major teams and to get into the bubble? Because as far as we know, it's going to be a bubble of NCAA tournament within Indianapolis. So who is on the bubble to get into the bubble? We're going to break down the typical conferences that we get into more because it's going to be the multiple bid conferences. Although I would throw in Western Kentucky within Conference USA to maybe be a bubble team because maybe it's going to be them, maybe it's Marshall or UAB. Who knows, but I want to give you at least a shout out.
If you're getting votes, then you should probably be an at-large team, assuming you win all the way to your championship game and just lose the championship game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll see what Western Kentucky and Conference USA gets out to. But as for right now, let's start off with Gonzaga's conference, the WCC. It's going to be Gonzaga for sure. Let's just say that. The number 1 team in NCAA since literally preseason, Gonzaga is for sure in. They are not on a bubble.
You willing to bet money on that?
Sure. Yes, I will bet money on that. and I will bet they are at least a 2 seed into tournament.
I'll give you -7 odds on that.
I will make 7 cents on that.
No, you owe me 7.
But the other team within WCC, I feel like is a guarantee. If they just tank, maybe okay, there's going to be an argument against it. But a team that I feel like is going to be guaranteed, BYU, currently right now 17-5, Q1 3-3, Q2 4-2. Their wins in the Q1, San Diego State, St. Mary's College, and Utah State. And their losses in the Q2 actually is Boise State and Pepperdine. What's left on their season is University of San Francisco and St. Mary's, which are both kind of that Q2, Q1, depending on whether or not you play them home or away. And then you have the tournament as well, which they're probably going to face off against San Francisco or St. Mary's again, and then Gonzaga.
Yeah, so they'll pick up a 4th Q1 loss.
Yes, pretty much essentially.
Who's the 3rd Q1 loss?
Well, their Q1 losses are San Diego State, St. Mary's College, and Utah State.
Those are the wins.
Oh, their wins. Oh, their losses. Them, and then I think probably
Gonzaga, and
someone else. I'm blanking on the moment of who else they lost to, and what their schedule was. But this is what at least their resume is. Is a 3-3 Q1, 4-2 Q2. I think it pretty much guarantees them a tournament, at least at this point from what we're looking at. It may not be a very high bid, obviously, but it's going to probably get them
10 or 11 seed.
I'm thinking 11-10, yeah, for sure, in that little range. If they can sweep out throughout the rest of the year and then lose to Gonzaga in the championship, I think they still get a tournament bid at least.
At that point, they might even get a 8 or a 7.
Yeah, maybe they can get really high up in there and get that like 8-9 bid as well. I don't think there's anyone else in WCC that can get a bid. I mean, St. Mary's is always the one that's in the talking points. This year, Pepperdine was also in the talking points, but
it's a Romark squad.
But history-wise, Pepperdine just won't get in just because of history. Like, they haven't been a team in.
I want to point out that Lorenzo Romar was Markelle Fultz's coach. They had the #1 draft pick in the NBA, and they had a losing record.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a good coach to do that. Now, there is one way the WCC gets a 3rd team into the tournament, which is for BYU and Gonzaga to opt out of the WCC tournament.
Gonzaga's already confirmed that they're not.
But there's that, and so another team would have to win the WCC tournament, and in order for that to happen, Gonzaga would have to not play.
So St. Mary's beating BYU and then beating Gonzaga, does that guarantee BYU a tournament bid then?
St. Mary's beating BYU
in the
WCC tournament, and then St. Mary's beats Gonzaga?
Yes. Like that scenario, does WCC become a 3-bid conference?
It doesn't compute because there's an error message.
No, there is. I understand that. But like a team to beat BYU and Gonzaga in the WCC tournament, does it still guarantee BYU a conference?
It shows that St. Mary's team is playing out of their minds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would not hold that loss against them.
So that's what I'm saying is that if a team does get an automatic bid that's not Gonzaga or BYU, does BYU still make it?
Yes.
All right. That's what I just wanted to clarify with all that. On to the next conference, Missouri Valley Conference. 2 bids, Drake and Loyola Chicago. Drake University was throughout a good part of the season undefeated and then lost twice. They are currently right now 21-2, Q1 1-1, and then Q3 5-1. They're perfect in Q2. Their wins over Loyola Chicago and Missouri State twice, all within conference. And then their losses, they split between Loyola Chicago, so they lost to Loyola Chicago. And their worst loss, which is their Q3 loss, Valparaiso.
Valpo. Yeah, Valparaiso.
Terrible loss, 74-57, by the way. But what's left of their schedule, not a whole lot. It's Evansville and Bradley, which are like Q2, Q3
So
ranges.
I worked with a guy who went to Bradley.
Mhm.
If Drake loses to Bradley, it's
Yeah.
bad. It's
That's the
bad.
thing is I think out of these two teams between Drake and Loyola Chicago, Drake has the most fragile
Mm-hmm.
kind of record, kind of resume to get into the tournament. Especially when you're talking about Evansville and Bradley, and then once we get to Loyola Chicago, I can explain a little bit more as to why I think they are more of a guaranteed bid. But Drake does need to kind of sweep through.
Strength of schedule.
If they lose to Loyola Chicago into their conference tournament, that's still forgivable. But they do need to sweep on through.
Drake needs to finish this with a lot of wins.
Yeah, they basically need to finish off how they started the season.
Because strength of schedule matters.
So then Loyola Chicago on the other end, 19-4, 1-2 in Q1, but 4-2 in Q2. Wins over Drake, Missouri State twice as well. Losses to Richmond, Wisconsin, Drake, and Indiana State. That Indiana State being one of their worst losses. Richmond is like back and forth. I always thought Richmond was gonna upset a team. I thought they were gonna win this their own conference in the Atlantic 10. But Richmond kind of straddles that line between 2 and 1. It feels like. But what's left with Loyola Chicago? I think a Q4 team, Southern Illinois, and then they go into their tournament. So they should be able to sweep on out and get to their finals. I think even though if Drake and Loyola Chicago do sweep out, get to their finals, and then meet up against each other, Drake still has more of a fragile loss against Loyola Chicago than Loyola Chicago has against Drake in that sense.
Okay. Yeah, the Loyola Chicago playing against, so neither of them have the tournament cementing win that would get them in.
Yeah, for a guarantee.
For the guarantee, but Loyola Chicago having played Wisconsin and Richmond, whereas Missouri Valley having not, definitely plays to Loyola Chicago's advantage because it shows that they're not padding their schedule.
Yeah.
And so I think both of these teams will get in if they end up in the championship game.
Mm-hmm. Right, and then it also obviously helps that Loyola Chicago is ranked at the moment.
Yeah.
With all this. So moving on to the next conference, the conference that we don't talk about because it's a weird conference where it's not a mid-major conference, but it's not a power conference. The American Athletic Conference, the AAC. The one team I want to talk about this because we all know that Houston is going to make it. Wichita State is probably going to be a bubble team within this conference. 13-4 so far on the season, 2-2 in quad 1, 2-2 in quad 2 as well. Their wins, Houston and Ole Miss in quad 1. Their losses, all 4 losses, Missouri, Oklahoma State, Memphis, and Houston, all tournament teams, to be honest, that they lost to.
The only question mark there is Memphis.
Memphis may not make the tournament, but that's your question mark team is Memphis out of all teams that you're gonna have a question mark to. What's left in Wichita State's schedule? SMU, Tulane, Temple. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, all of the other ones. But again, what's left in their schedule? SMU, Tulane, Temple. Not the most resume building kind of what's left in your schedule.
It doesn't matter.
SMU, but AAC is still a very competitive conference. I think if Wichita State sweeps on out, still loses to Houston in the championship, they'll get a bid.
It doesn't matter with the remaining schedule for Wichita State. Their wins over Houston and Ole Miss are huge. That's what sets them apart from Loyola and Drake, is that they have that win over Houston.
Yeah, and overall Q1 wins as well. So I think AAC will be a 2-bid conference with Wichita State coming in. I don't think there's any other team from AAC that will get into the tournament. Now on to the two conferences that's like, who is going to get into the tournament? I think there's still some teams that will definitely get into the tournament with some conferences. And then in a different conference, it's like, maybe, maybe not. But let's go with the Mountain West. The teams that I think will definitely get into the tournament, unless they absolutely tank for one of these. Boise State is going to be one of my teams. They're so far 18-4. They have a 2-2 Q1 record, 2-2 Q2 record. Their losses in Q2, Nevada twice, and then their wins in Q1, BYU and Colorado State. What's left in their schedule is San Diego State twice, and then tournament, which they're probably going to face off against San Diego State again. And then on the flip side, another team that I'm thinking is guaranteed into the tournament, San Diego State, 17-4, 0-3 in Q1, by the way, but 4-1 Q2, losses to Colorado State, and they also have wins over UCLA and Colorado State as well. What's left in their schedule is also Boise State twice. Then they'll probably face off against Boise State in the conference finals, more likely. So I think if these two teams can split each other and then get to their conference finals in Mountain West, and then whoever, I don't care, it will probably be these two teams getting into the tournament.
Yeah. So, Boise State and San Diego State, definitely leaders in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
Definitely tournament teams. Now they're not going to be top four. They're not going to be seeded in the top 16.
I think it helps that San Diego State had such a great team last year. They do have a good team this year. That's in fairness to them.
But they're 0-3 in Q1. That's going to keep them on the 5 line or lower.
Oh, right. But I think it also helps overall with the resume as well to see what the team was last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they only lost Malachi Flynn, I think his name is. They kept their other two top guys within San Diego State, and I think that also helps.
So why couldn't they pull out dubs elsewhere? So I'm not saying that they're bad, and I'm saying that they are a tournament team. I'm just saying they're not a top 16 team.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see them buried somewhere in the 6 or the 7 line. Boise State, on the other hand, could climb up to that 5, especially if they win the Mountain West tournament. They have the win over BYU. And they wrap up by playing San Diego State twice. So if they can win 2 out of 3 of those, yes, I just said twice, but there's that. Now we come down here, I'm going to skip the next team you have, and we'll come back to them, and I want to talk about the team that I'm really low on and look at as paper tigers, which is Colorado State. They're 2-3 in Q1, they're 1-1 in Q2. Their win is one of each of Boise State and San Diego State, but they lost to Utah State, which I really am low on. I'm really low on Utah State. And Colorado State lost to St. Mary's 53-33.
It was a very low scoring game with that.
Gonzaga can score more points in 10 minutes than you scored in 40. So, also, what's left on Colorado State's schedule? Air Force twice? Yeah, that's just, you might as well cancel those games. It's only going to hurt your strength of schedule.
And then whatever's left in their tournament. Colorado State, I will say, out of the two teams I have left, Colorado State and Utah State, Colorado State is the one team that I think can make Mountain West a 3-bid conference.
I do like Colorado State better than the other team, but I think they're paper tigers. I think they're a great NIT team, and they're going to lose in the second round of the NIT. Now, the team that I think has a chance to win the NIT is this Utah State team. They're 2-4 in Q1. They're 1-1 in Q2. They're 2-2 in Q3. So on a good day, they're good. On a bad day, they're bad.
Yeah. But their bad days, South Dakota State and UNLV are those Q3 losses.
And so, what is Utah State trying to do to preserve their record? Well, here we have it. We've noticed that their next game is against Nevada. I saw a press report earlier that they are currently petitioning the Mountain West to rearrange the schedule so they skip Nevada and play New Mexico. And so, why do I think that's relevant? Well, what teams picked up a win against the conference leading Boise State?
Yeah, Nevada.
And so Utah State's trying to dodge a potential resume killer.
Yeah, but if they do lose to New Mexico, that guarantees them. By the way.
So I think Utah State has a chance to end up in the top 8 to 4 of the NIT. I don't think.
Oh yeah,
they're not a tournament.
Yeah,
team.
no, these two are definitely NIT teams. I think to make the conference a 3-bid conference, Colorado State has a better chance at it than Utah State. Especially, it doesn't help that Utah State just lost to Boise State twice back to back this last week. So I think Utah State, from what it looks like from the talks, it looks like they're pretty much out of it. But I think Colorado State has the chance to make this conference a 3-bid conference. And that gets us to the last conference, the Atlantic 10. I think these next 2 weeks, it could be completely different teams. This could be a 3-bid conference. This could just be a 1-bid conference. Depending on how everything else goes, I think there's so much fragility within the next 2 weeks and 3 weeks if we count the conference tournaments as well. But who I have as their pretty much guaranteed bids, I think VCU is in. They are a big surprise out of nowhere. I shouldn't say out of nowhere, but it felt like all of a sudden they were in the talks. And then like, oh wait, we're going to give you a higher seed than what we were thinking of at first. VCU 16-5, 0-3 in Q1, 7-0 Q2, 4-2 Q3, and I will touch up on that a little bit too. Wins over St. Bonaventure, Richmond, Utah State, and Memphis, and then losses to Rhode Island, which I guess is a Q3.
Rhode Island, I think, is a tournament team based off of the auto bid.
Yeah, if they win their tournament, but Rhode Island is one of those teams where net rankings could and could not favor you depending on how you look at it, because Rhode Island I think was a home loss and that meant it was a Q3, but if it was like a neutral or away win or a neutral away loss, it would have been Q2. So it's one of those weird ones where it's like Rhode Island is not a Q3 team. I'm sorry.
And that's what I was implying.
And
was
then
that Rhode Island is on track to all signs point to them winning their conference tournament and getting the bid.
And then their other loss to George Mason, which yes is
a bad.
That is their one bad loss that I will say is throughout their entire 5 losses. But what's left? A whole lot. St. Louis, Davidson, Dayton, Q1s and Q2s all around for them. They could, if they sweep all that and then go into their conference, lose their conference finals, let's just say. I definitely think that they're in no matter what. The other team I actually have as a more or less guarantee into the tournament, St. Bonaventure. 10-3 on the season. They are 1-2 in Q1, 2-1 in Q2, and these could fluctuate back and forth. Like I said, their losses to Rhode Island in this sense for Q2 is a loss. And then they lost to St. Louis and VCU, which are Q1s. So again, Rhode Island kind of straddles that line as to whether or not we play you at home, we play you on the road, or we play you just literally somewhere else.
Yeah.
They kind of straddle that line between Q2, Q3, so it's hard to say for that VCU that's a bad loss against Rhode Island, but their wins on St. Bonaventure against VCU, Richmond, and Akron, which are their Q1, Q2 wins.
Yeah.
They had a late start to the season. December 15th is when they played their first ever game, which was against Akron. And then what's left in their schedule, again, pretty quality. Davidson, Dayton, and then George Washington. But again, Q2 games that they have coming up.
Okay.
So I think, again, St. Bonaventure just sweeps throughout, gets to their finals. They lose their finals. They're probably in the tournament.
Alright.
The team that I know Wes Pine on Twitter is going to hate me for, that I think has a lot of questions to be a tournament team, not because of what their schedule is. I think it's just because they are a mid-major conference team, and it's hard with the record, who they beat, who they lost, and what came afterwards. I think they should be in the tournament, but I think it's just going to be the voting committee just saying, I'm sorry, you're not.
So
I think that's what this is going to be like for St. Louis.
So here's the thing is, if they get held out, it's because their location is being held against them. They come from a terrible location. But as a Jesuit school, I think they should be given fair and just, and that their story should be recognized as being true for them, and that we should hear out their full story and respond with I statements and not
all the Jesuit teachings that are coming at you right now.
So what we're talking about is the Jesuit school, St. Louis. Comes from a terrible, terrible town, but it's a nice school. They're 1-1 in Q1, they're 1-1 in Q2, and they're 3-2 in Q3.
Overall, like I said, with the resume, they do need to pick up a lot of wins coming throughout the rest of the season. With that resume that they have right there, wins coming over LSU and St. Bonaventure, and then their losses, Dayton and LaSalle. However, they were on like a 2 or 3 week COVID break. And then they come into their conference tournament, coming against LaSalle and Dayton, and they lost those 2 games. Later on in the season, they got that win back over LaSalle, and then they lost to Dayton again.
Yep.
So they were able to reclaim one of those wins, just saying like, hey, we didn't play basketball for 2 or 3 weeks. This is why we lost.
Yep.
With Dayton, they couldn't reclaim that kind of glory, but again, it's Dayton. It's hard to say that they're a Q3 team.
Yeah, no, Dayton.
Year in and year out, how are they a Q3 team?
Because they haven't built up their consistency. Dayton's on their way. In 5 years, 6 years from now, Dayton is a Q1, Q2 all the time.
Yeah.
But the big thing here is the St. Louis win over LSU. That's a resume-defining win. If they get in, they can look back on that game and say, thank you, Jesuit.
And then also, again, like what's left in their schedule, VCU, I guess Richmond as well, UMass and George Mason.
If they win out, they're in.
Yeah, if they went out, and then plus you also have to figure out what's left in their tournament schedule as well. They might play against St. Bonaventure again, they might play against VCU, they might play against Richmond, depending on what their schedule just kind of lays out for their tournament. If they win on out, yes. Are they going to beat VCU? That's going to be a hard one. If they beat Richmond, again, if they lose to VCU and Richmond, that's going to be hard to say that they're a tournament team if they do not get their automatic bid in A10.
They can lose to VCU.
Yes.
They should probably beat Richmond.
They should probably.
If they lose to UMass or George Mason, they're done.
Yes. Yeah, I think
those are must wins.
Yeah, they must win against those. Richmond, say they they lose to VCU, they lose to Richmond, clear on out, lose in their conference finals. Do they get the automatic bid?
So they went 2-2, and then they lose in
their finals. They either lose to St. Bonaventure or VCU in the finals, but they probably beat.
But they picked up a win over the other one on the way. I put him in the tournament.
Okay, that again. I think
but that's because I just doesn't the Pac-12 have 5 bids?
True though, but I think out of all these conferences, Atlantic 10 may receive less bids just because they aren't a power conference overall. That's just where I see them at. I think they should probably receive more votes than they're probably going to get, but we will know in the next 2 weeks. So this week is the last week for a lot of teams for conference play, and then next week is either the last games or they're starting their conferences. So we're going to see what's going to go on next week. We are going to give our predictions for certain conferences, who we think are going to win their conferences and who's probably going to be in the tournament. And then the week after that, we got even more conferences, and the week after that, it's Selection Sunday, I believe.
You skipped my birthday.
Scary. I did skip your birthday. We will have cake on your birthday too. Don't worry, Rick. We will make cake for you. You just need to tell me what cake you have. I already finished all mine. You can have all my crumbs. But until next time, please leave a comment down below. How many bids do you think the WCC, Missouri Valley, the AAC, the A10, and the Mountain West are going to get? Who do you think is going to be making the tournament? Please like this video. Please subscribe, because we will be doing a 50 subscriber giveaway once we get there. More details on my Twitter. Please follow me on Twitter. Please follow him on Twitter. And please stay safe. Please stay healthy. And please get your COVID vaccine shot. We are going to get ours this week. So until next time.
Come for the jokes, stay for the facts.
Mm-hmm.